We're lucky enough today to be joined by Adam Hunt from OakNorth, who I will say had to step in fairly last minute as his colleague had to go away. So let's go easy on him. But OakNorth have been an incredible partner for us over the last few months. I think really supporting our network. Some of you actually in this room were lucky enough to be invited to a breakfast with them not that long ago, so you'll already know them. And again, they play a big part of making this all possible today as well. So big thank you to them. Adam's going to be joined on stage by Tom Baker, who is the CFO of Whittard of Chelsea, to really dive into debt financing as a real option. So again, maybe one we've not previously considered, but one we should all be open to and really think about whether that's better for what we're looking to achieve. So let's put our hands together and welcome them to the stage.
Hello. Hi. Right. My name's Adam Hunt. I'm in the business banking team in OakNorth in London. I'm joined here by Tom today. We're going to do a Parkinson-style Q&A, but it won't take too much time. A little bit of an elevator pitch for OakNorth. So we're a bank, so we lend money, we open accounts. We're founder-led. We started 10 years ago. It was created by our co-founders, Joel and Rishi. Before OakNorth, they started their own business, and when they were scaling and looking for investment from their incumbent bank, they tried to get some debt facilities in place, but it was very much a computer says no moment. And so when they successfully exited their business, they decided in their infinite wisdom to create OakNorth Bank, which is a bank specifically for founder-led businesses, fast-growing businesses, etc. So cut to 10 years later, we've lent 18 billion, I think it is so far. And we just purchased a bank in the States, and that's going really well. So we're really looking forward to the next 10 years. If anyone wants to discuss banking, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. So please grab me afterwards if you are interested in any facilities or any other information with OakNorth. But my first question to you, Tom, is around if you could just quickly give some color around Whittard and any sort of big milestones you had as a business when you were scaling.
Okay. Hi, thank you. So it's a bit ironic, a founder-led event like this, and we were founded in 1886. That isn't lost on me. So founded in London as a tea, coffee, hot chocolate business in 1886, family owned for many generations, then taken over, sold, and was sadly a tragedy of the Icelandic banking crisis, or the global credit crisis, but the Icelandic banking bit took Whittard into administration back in 2008 when they were bought out by a private equity business called Epic. Since then, they've been recovering and growing steadily. We're up to about 45 stores now on the high street. Our biggest one being in Covent Garden, which is a real flagship for us. But that's been a journey. The business got to a great place in 2019, started making a profit, and really was thinking about exit. And then COVID happened. And being in retail is tough all the time. But during COVID, it was impossible. And there was a period of recovery. We're now in great shape, recovering very strongly indeed. The last few years, our EBITDA has been growing by about 30% a year. Our sales have been growing by 10 to 12% a year. And our stores are the antithesis of the rest of the high street, and that we're actually seeing 25% like-for-like footfall growth at the moment, and double-digit like-for-like sales growth. And I talk to quite a few CFOs in other retail businesses on a monthly basis and various calls. And when we talk about how trading's going, it's almost embarrassing when it comes down to me, because we have managed to hit a sweet spot right now. And that's why earlier this year we turned to OakNorth to help us scale faster.
And thank you. And on that sort of funding journey, what's your thoughts on the big question for debt versus equity? What's your viewpoint on that?
So I came in a couple of years ago as the CFO, and with that came a little bit of equity, or an equity option. So when the opportunity came to need more funding to be able to scale faster, and my job is to grow the valuation by 60 million over the next 3 years, did I want to give some of that away, or would I rather go with debt and actually make my tax bill more efficient, and have greater control? Well, we went down the debt route. Now that we were a journey there. You know, we had difficult times. We did need equity investment. We did have invoice financing for many, many years at great cost to fund our working capital. But we're now at the point where our cash generation and our working capital needs are right for debt financing.
Okay. And in terms of the founders in this room then, who may be at Series A or above, what sort of, as a CFO, what sort of financial advice would you give in terms of planning if you're a founder and you've gone through proof of concept, etc.?
Well, knowing your cash flow, controlling your working capital, and knowing exactly what's happening to your working capital, and understanding how much actually can I leverage my suppliers and my working capital to fund some of my growth. You know, let's be efficient with that first before we go to interest or equity. I know that's not necessarily what you want to hear, Adam, but where can I get my different funding from? And then when I'm ready for bank funding, I've got to know my cash flow. I've got to know my profitability. I've got to know what are the risks out there and quantify them, and be really clear and open and honest about what are my risks. Because everyone can sell the dream, but can you actually explain how you're managing the risk? Because be it investors or banks, they want to know that you are thinking about what could go wrong, as well as how do we go faster.
And finally, from me, what do you look for as a successful business in a partnership? What does good look like with a lender or a backer? What's important to you as a business?
So for us, that relationship bit was really important. You've got to have trust, and you've got to know that you can pick up the phone when something doesn't go right. And we met with 2 or 3 banks that we spoke further up to several banks. And what impressed me actually with OakNorth is myself and our CEO, Nathan, we ended up in what I was laughingly describing as the Dragon's Den earlier. So we were with Rishi, the founder of OakNorth, the director of debt, the director of credit. There were about 5-6 people in the room, and for an hour and a half, they took it in turns for 15 minutes to grill us on our numbers, our business plans, our contingency plans, our growth strategies. No one else did that. But it meant that I knew they were bought into us, and they knew who we were and what we were looking at and how we were going to grow. And if something didn't happen, we'd already talked about it, and we could have that conversation openly and honestly. So OakNorth know that I've just launched a pop-up which may lose money in Hong Kong. And that's a risk we're wanting to take because we want to grow our Asian business. And it's a risk, but we've been open and honest about it, and they've been excited about that conversation. So that, for us, was very, very important.
Thanks. I'm going to leave it there. Does anyone from the room have any questions for Tom at all? Anyone at all? I've got one ready. How hands-on when the VCs were around at that sort of stage? How bullish and hands-on were they? Were they the decision makers, or was your relationship with them at the time a pretty good one and prosperous one?
So I've only been involved with Whittard since PE days, and they're still very much involved. They're still the largest shareholder. The chairman is still part of that PE house, and in fact, we've got a board meeting tomorrow morning with him. But in a previous life, I acted as a financial sort of outsourced finance function for a VC-owned business. And that was very involved. That was fortnightly calls. It was for a spin-off of an Estee Lauder cosmetics brand. And that was fortnightly calls to the US. How they got the investment, I'm not sure, because when I came in, the first thing I said was your cash flow forecasts are unrealistic. And this is actually how much we're going to need over the next 9 months. And sure enough, that we needed actually a little bit more than that, but pretty close. So that's where I learned that the openness up front about just how much you're going to need is really important, and where that cash is going, because that relationship ended badly because they weren't clear on their expectations, and they were selling the pipe dream.
Thank you. Right, I'll leave it there then. Is anyone? Oh, yeah.
You mentioned inventory financing. Who did you go to for that, and what were the kind of invoice rates that you were paying?
Sorry, it was invoice financing. I have looked into inventory financing before, but I found it very difficult and very niche to achieve. Invoice financing, we used to use at Whittard when they were first coming out of administration, and we used a company called Aldermore, who were incredibly expensive. On previous companies, I've also set up HSBC's invoice financing, which was much easier to manage and much cheaper. But you're still probably looking at invoice financing, it's going to cost you about 8%.
Can you just give a bit more detail? So again, I'm trying to broaden the horizon of people here thinking about, well, maybe this is an option. Who is debt funding right for, and who is it absolutely not right for?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the debt conversations, the best thing to do is approach your bank early on, even if you don't think that they're going to lend you money. It's very important to start that relationship early on with at least one or two banks that you speak to and build that relationship. In terms of the criteria, we're looking at a lower mid-market space here. So most banks have typical appetite, which is quite similar. That being a business that's gone through proofs of concept, that they've been trading for a few years and they're at least break even. Because in terms of the debt that banks provide, we want to make sure that the debt can be serviced. So we would look at how long the business has been, can they service the debt? But also, as I mentioned to my customers quite a bit, is it's very, very important to banks who's behind the business. So a lot of the credit papers that we write, 2 pages is on the management. A lot of scrutiny is on the management behind the business, whether that's experience or whatever. So it's not just about financials. It's not just about what type of business it is. It's also about the people behind it as well.
Any other questions? I was kind of interested what you were saying about high street retail really struggling, and your numbers going up 25% year on year in terms of footfall. I was wondering what it was you were doing that's achieving those kind of growth rates in a context where, as I understand it, retail footfall is declining.
In-store experience. So we do tastings in store, not just on teas, but on hot chocolates and the coffee, and that brings people in. And people like to go into busy stores. People are scared to go into an empty store where staff are stood behind the counter. So if you've got a bit of drama within the store, that brings people in. And once you've got them in, you can sell to them. And if you believe in your product, you'll convert. There's one at the back.
Oh, sorry, I can't see all the lights.
Sorry, it's the city closing one. I was a Saturday girl at Whittard's in the late 90s, and I have all my certificates. What level of coffee certificate do you have?
I'm actually more of a tea man. I'm learning on coffee, but I was 5 years at Twinings, so I can talk to you at length on tea, coffee, less good, but I do drink our San Agustin Colombian coffee every morning, and I can highly recommend that. I hope it was there in the 90s, because it is superb.
Don't think so.
To what degree is being a heritage brand helpful in raising funding?
I'm not sure what it has been for raising funding, other than there is a certain level of sort of credibility behind it, that you're not a brand that's going to be here today, gone tomorrow. I would say that's all it gives us. It gives us a lot for international expansion. It gives us a lot into new markets. But in terms of funding here within the UK, I'd just say it just gives confidence that that's a brand that's here to stay.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.